Okay, so here we go again. So you have all these folders on the left, and these are automatic. You can't change these. Let me open it. So first you have all the sprites. So you load sprites that you want. Um, Sometimes your sprites won't be visible. In other words, the user won't actually see them, which is why I call them hidden sprite. But I use them so that for objects where I want the person to be able to click on it, because you can't click on an object if it doesn't have a sprite. So you can see all these sprites I put in here, and then portraits. I have all sorts of portraits. These are just, condensed. You'll see what they look like large. And then magic sphere images. And you'll see that I have two different types. I have normal and I have selected. So this is just kind of the background stuff. You wouldn't necessarily think that you'd need a second sprite for selected ones, but it just made my life easier doing it. Then you have objects, all sorts of objects, and I have them into different groups. And a lot of stuff for setting up. And some of these are just basically empty because the only reason for this is to have a sprite. A lot of these don't have sprites at all though. And draw will execute it, so if it has a draw function, it's usually going to be text. And then create is what it does when it's created. I want to find one with a little substance to it. Okay, so right here, now you have all these different options you can put in. So you have an event here, and so you have the create event. That's what happens when the object created. All objects have a create event, even though you don't have to have anything in there. And so you could drag over all these different things that it has, and it'll execute them in order. What I do almost 100% of the time is I drag in this one, execute code. And when you bring it in, then you code in here. Now this is very simple. There's really not much to do in this create event here. Then when the mouse enters the area of the object, it'll do something. So right here what I have is hover equals true, which is going to actually just change the highlight of it. And then here you have all the actual coding. And I'm not going to go through this now and what it actually does because I'd have to, really analyze it and go back. But there can be a lot of stuff here. Some of these can be quite long. So I will run this quickly and give you a quick demo. Come on. Alright. Rain wants to know what I'm doing. Ha. Alright, so this is just a front screen. This is a background I lifted from somewhere. Looks nice. Game's called Mythical. So here you can see that this is actually several objects in one. You have one object which writes the lettering itself. You have an invisible object that's about the length. You can tell where it is because when I move the mouse over it, it changes the color of the text. And so what happens is that when I go over it, it recognizes that I'm hovering over it. That's built into the game. See, the game or the program does that for you. So I didn't have to write the code to make it recognize when the mouse is over. It recognizes it. But then I say to point to the other object, which is the lettering, and to change the color of the lettering. And then when it leaves hovering, it changes back. So this is basically just a game setup window. So you have two players, player 1 and player 2. You have some stats here, and this is the current class. And right here should show the magic spheres for the class, I believe. So maybe there's an error, or maybe Telrock Knight just doesn't have any magic classes. It's kind of hard for me to believe. Might have to work on that. So yeah, he should have one. Anyhow, you see here when you click on it, it tells you the different attributes. shows you what magic spheres they can use, and shows you what items they can use. The red is kind of hard to see. I probably should change the coloring on that, but the green really stands out, so you can see what sort of items they can equip: medium armor, heavy armor, shield. All these images I lifted from the internet somewhere. I couldn't use them in an actual game. They're for demonstration purposes only. And I mean, just switching from one to another, there's a whole bunch of coding that goes into it with, changing all of these to the appropriate ones, clearing all of these, creating a new set of these. And you can see the little highlight here. This means he starts with it. In customization, you can buy extra ones. So these are all the ones that are possibly available. And so I now realize that wasn't an error in the first screen. He hasn't bought any yet. You'd have to actually buy it. He can learn one, but he doesn't have one. So there's 9 different factions. And the wilds is, so you have the 4 good ones here. So you can see I made the lettering blue. So these are kind of like the 4 light ones. Then this is a neutral one. And then 4 dark ones. So that's kind of how that works. I really like some of the images for these that I found. So Elder Druid, I think it looks pretty nice. Witch, Werebear. And you can save the form and see now here it is, the Werebear saved. And you have that. And so now I can choose another form over here. It's kind of cool. Underworld looks pretty cool. These images are nice. Mandatory orcs. I'll run through these quickly. So you have to have the orcs. I named them Yarbog. That's like the tribe. I just came up with that myself. The Red Hill is the goblin group. They're tied in with some ogres, so there's an ogre here. Underworld is like the skeleton necromancer sort of group. Forsaken are like, maybe you have vampires, fallen angel, humans, or like beings that have kind of gone to the dark side, if you will. Wild's pretty self-explanatory. Sun Tribe is kind of like a tribe out in the plains, desert. Lostwood is the elf faction. Lostwood Priestess, obviously a caster, 4 different types of magic, starts with 1 sphere. Dunbar are the dwarves, and Telrock are the humans. So pick a sniper here, that works. And then you can change the build. So I'm going to change this a little bit, if I recall, when I was last working on it. Do not type. Oh, right. So you have a certain amount of points, which is 3, and you get 3 points per level. So just for the demonstration and testing purposes, I've allowed you to change the level. So you can go, what's the max level? I think 15, yeah. So you could have up to 45 points to spend when you're 15. Buying a sphere costs 7, so these are the 2 spheres that the Werebear can learn. So you see the points goes down. Lots of coding behind this, doing the math. Undoing stuff, it's easy to make stuff happen one way. Removing stuff, that's always part you have to remember. So no matter what order you click these, it has to, or remove them, it has to recenter them. So that's a nice little feature I have. Then you can buy stat points, remove stat points. You notice that this object only appears once you've bought one, which is lots of coding behind all this. And then you can buy features, and I'm not sure this works yet. Yeah, see, I set it up to describe what the ability does. I haven't put that in yet. You start with 1 ability automatically, so you can't get rid of this ability. But you can buy other abilities. There's the cost. See, the P means permanent. Sell them back. One of the harder things to program that took a little bit of work was how to handle it if I drop. See, when I drop a level, it takes away 3 points. But what happens if, say, there's only 2 points? And what I ended up doing, I think, was I just reset everything. Because otherwise it'd be a lot of work. So now it took all the points you'd spent away, and you can repurchase stuff. So just do that. Say save the build. So now you see here it has the points that have been purchased. I can change the build here. Buy these. This guy doesn't need spirit, but I'll buy it anyway. whatever.